I want to welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Clint Formby. I'm the SEPRO technical specialist down in Texas, covering the Mid-South. Joining us today, we'll have Troy Coker, our technical specialist up in Indianapolis. And then leading the charge is Dr. West Bishop. He's our principal scientist on all things water and algae. And so with that, I will hand it over to Dr. Bishop.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Sincere thanks for your time today. Very excited to be here and be speaking with you. Hope everyone is doing well today. Can you guys hear me all right? All right, perfect. Well, we'll jump in and get started. A quick overview of things I want to cover with you guys today. First off is the hook right up front, a few slides up front. Why manage? Why do we need to talk about managing aquatic resources? Why do we need to really understand how to manage these aquatic resources? What benefit does it have to you and how you manage your courses there? So we're gonna hit that home right up front to make sure this is valuable for all you guys and certainly valuable for your time and how you guys manage out there. Then we'll really delve into some of these programs. How can we manage? Start with prevention. Prevention is very important. How do we get ahead of these nuisance water quality, algae, issues out there? And we'll talk about nutrient activation in particular, and also some colorants. Be able to take out that light source, that energy that these aquatic growths need. We'll talk about proactive sea clear program, really getting on that routine program to stay ahead of things, and then having our back pocket there, finish it off with Captain XTR, affectionately known as the hammer. If you have some tough, nasty algae or nasty stuff out there you need to get cleaned up in a hurry, we'll talk about that product there at the end. So we'll keep things moving for the sake of time, but definitely cover a lot of questions at the end is the plan. All right, so why manage? Right up front, why manage? So aesthetics is the big thing. So we want those ponds looking good. It's a common thing most people think of. Algae can form mats and scums that can smell bad, discolor the water. So we want the course looking nice. We want these water features, water hazards, or irrigation ponds, if you will, looking nice and smelling nice and not full of nasty debris and biting insects coming out and snakes around the edges. So I think aesthetics is a big thing most people think about when we talk about managing these water resources. However, it's much more than that. So some additional things we need to consider when managing these systems. Next slide there are things like functionality. So things you may not think about. Really helping with drainage, these drainage canals, helping drain off the water resources. When it comes to irrigation, a lot of these pumps could get clogged with this thick aquatic gross, sprinkler heads getting clogged. So there's this functional aspect to why we need to manage too. Also drainage through the turf layers. The more algae and organic matter and turbidity you have that you're irrigating with can build up actually, in the turf itself and these, underground layers and prevent drainage and create this black layer, and that can negatively impact the turf. So there's this functional aspect in addition to the aesthetics. And even more, why we need to manage is that water quality. So there are many different types of, I'll say, spores, different disease spores that can be transferred through the water. Now, this is big in certainly ornamentals and greenhouses and gardens, but also there are some turf diseases that can be facilitated through the water. So if you're irrigating with poor water quality that contains some of these nuisance spores, you could be a source of infection. So we definitely want to manage to, keep that water from being a source of infection. Some additional water quality things you need to consider are this is if there's algae in that water used to irrigate, it can be a source of turf algae. If you keep those areas wet, you can get that nostoc or the oscillatory actually growing across your turf grass. If you have these nasty types of algae that we'll talk about more, these cyanobacteria in particular, they can produce compounds called toxins. Now, these toxins can do some really scary stuff to both human health and animal health we won't get into, but certainly they can have allelopathic impacts on the turf grass themselves. Those toxins can cause yellowing of the turf grass, stunning of the roots. So, we don't want those nuisance noxious organisms in the water we're putting all over the turf. Most of the time when I talk to golf course superintendents, they're like, hey, the greens, that's where we spend most of our money. We need to keep those in the budget, and that's, high quality. In the ponds, maybe less so, or maybe we cut that out of the budget. But you don't want to be irrigating those precious greens with poor water quality. So keep that in mind. Additional things, just having too much nuisance algae out there can drive the pH up. It can impact, ability of other products to work, and impact the ability to, uptake nutrients of the turf grass too. So a lot of reasons there. We just went through a few slides there on hopefully the hook on why we need to talk about management of these water resources, and why hopefully this is going to be very, very much valuable to your time and enhance your expertise as managers. All right, so now what I want to get into now is the prevention side of things. So understanding that these nuisance growths are not good to have in a system. These nasty types of algae are not good to have. How can we be proactive? How do we offset that in this sort of prevention approach? It's very important to stay ahead of this stuff. So one of the key things we need to understand is that food source, that fuel that a lot of these nuisance types of algae need in the water itself, and that's phosphorus. In these freshwater systems, phosphorus really correlates to the growth of nuisance and noxious types of algae and just the overall biomass that can be achieved. So more phosphorus, more algae, and more phosphorus, more nuisance, noxious types of algae that you really don't want out there, that look bad, smell bad, produce toxins, and get out of control. So one more slide on phosphorus, just to hit this home here, is it really correlates to this eutrophication process in freshwater. Again, more green, more growth is because this phosphorus has built up in there. 1 pound of phosphorus can grow 500 pounds of algae. It's considered that limiting nutrient, and the more phosphorus, again, it really correlates to these large growths of nuisance, nasty algae that you could have in those ponds. Now, phosphorus comes from many different sources. And, I want to hit this home. It can come from many different sources, certainly runoff or just, groundwater precipitation, wildlife. Geese can poop up to 92 times a day, and that can contain 1% phosphorus by dry weight. So a lot of different sources of phosphorus to consider, and that we'll talk about how we can address each of those. All right, so moving on here, just want to reinforce one key source that's often overlooked is the sediment. So this legacy phosphorus sitting down on the bottom of the pond, past years of grass clippings, of leaves, of fish poop and goose poop that have, accumulated in the bottom, can recycle and resuspend. And some types of algae in particular, those nasty cyanobacteria, can access that. So we do need to understand that, sediments can be a large sink and source of phosphorus in these systems too, especially as they've aged through time. So a little complex here, and we can break it down for you. Our laboratory can do sediment fractionation and tell us how much is there, but it's important to note that it's not just the water, it's the sediments too at play in these systems. All right, looking at the next slide here, really what I want to get into on this more proactive side of things is this group of technologies called Utrisorb technology. So over the past few years, we've really put a lot of focus on this on the research and development side, creating these technologies to specifically and permanently bind phosphorus in aquatic systems, and to address that phosphorus in different ways that it may enter the system. The main ones I'm going to talk about today are Utrisorb F. Those are the filter bag materials. So any sort of runoff, any sort of inflows of canals, creeks, discharges, well water inputs, so forth. We can run through these filter bags and bind phosphorus. Utrisorb WC for the water column to bind that phosphorus throughout the water column. Very easy to use liquid product there. And then Utrisorb G. It can get some from the water, but really to inactivate and target those sediments. So those are the top three. We do have another technology we won't spend much time on today to really help focus in some deep sediments if we need to in special scenarios, but we'll talk about those technologies. But again, very specific to permanently bind phosphorus. So let me jump right in. Utrisorb F, very neat material. This is housed in a black mesh sac. So this is, think of this a small mineral material, highly porous, but like a phosphorus magnet. As that phosphate-laden water comes through these filter bags, it just grabs it and binds it up permanently just that quick. It's very cool product. I was very impressed when when we started developing this, just pour this phosphate-laden water through this stuff, catch it coming out the bottom, and then bound it just that quick, very, very rapidly. So short contact time is designed for flowing water. You can put it, by a waterfall or recirculating system, but certainly if you have some point source inputs of phosphorus, of water and phosphorus, put it through these filter bags, bind it up before the algae can grab it in the site. So very efficient, very thorough, no irrigation restrictions here. And combined well over 1% by capacity. So one bag comes with two 25-pound filters, each combined a quarter pound of phosphorus, and that's about 30 part per billion in a typical pond, and that's a eutrophic level, so it can make a big difference out there. So real quick case study. We have a bunch of case studies, but real quick, this one we actually got a golf course article on it in the Tees to Green magazine. But this example on a golf course, they always had these issues with algae. They get a flush of rain, bringing all these nutrients. Guess what? 2-3 days later, sun came out and it turned green. But by incorporating these Utrisorb filter bags, we were able to intercept those nutrients and not have that algae bloom as a result. So grab it, permanently bind it before the algae could use it. So very great results here on multiple golf courses with this Utrisorb F, this filter bag material. All right. Next, one of the most efficient, I'll change that, the most efficient in terms of mass of product to bind a pound of phosphorus technology that I've ever tested and seen. This is Utrisorb WC. So WC for water column. This is a liquid-based product. Now it's very dense. This is like 13 pounds per gallon. There's a lot packed in there, but very water soluble, very easy to use. A little over a gallon of this Utrisorb WC binds a pound of elemental phosphorus. So in terms of that binding efficiency, there's nothing else that comes close. Creates a very permanent bind with that phosphorus again, so the algae can't use it, so they can't bloom. Very efficient product, doesn't mess with pH. There's no irrigation restrictions, and again, very easy to use, very low volume, very low use rates. Usually we're using a quart of product routinely to continually bind phosphorus through time in a lot of different systems out there. So again, very easy to use on a routine basis to proactively, permanently address phosphorus. Quick case study here. Again, this is one of our most widely used and adopted products, but a quick case study here on the next slide we'll look at shows a highly eutrophic pond here, a lot of nutrient inputs. Nasty amount of algae where we got on this routine Utrisorb WC program, and you can see on the next slide here the big difference it's made. We're able to chop down, we're able to get those phosphorus concentrations under control and really improve that water clarity and quality, and be able to keep that algae growth under control. So a much more, I'll say, cleaner pond, proactively able to restore that and get that back in balance with Utrisorb WC. All right, looking at the
Wes, I'm gonna pause this just for a second. We've gotten some really good questions that have come in just specifically on Utrisorb. So, how long do the bags last? The Utrisorb filters, how long do they last?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't want to get too technical on, well, if we knew the volume of water and the concentration of phosphorus in that volume that went through there, that's highly variable. At the end of the day, it binds it very tightly. It doesn't re-release. So even if there's rainwater or if it dries out and rehydrates, that phosphorus doesn't come back off the Utrisorb F material. So most of the time we tell people just leave it out there. And if it's a really wet year or a huge inputs or a lot of big flush of nutrients that's coming in, you might want to add another bag behind it. But just leave it out there. Every couple of weeks, maybe rotate it around, make sure that material on the inside, reposition it. Make sure that material on the inside's getting, contacted with the water. Just leave it out there for the season. And if it's a real wet, nasty year, you're draining very high, phosphorus from well water agriculture fields, you might want to have a couple bags there. So That's the simple answer, but we can follow up and get more technical as needed or do testing if needed. Yeah.
And after a filter's done, could you use that? Can you cut that open and utilize the material inside, like in divot mix, or can you use it? How would you dispose of it if you needed to?
Yeah, so it's very benign material. So you could put it out as a soil amendment, if you will, and it's not gonna hurt anything. So yeah.
Perfect.
Just keep in mind that phosphorus is bound up and it's not going to release ever. So you could use it more as a fill I guess, then you
correct.
could, as a, like adding to a divot mix type situation, that's not gonna, it's more of a fill situation. So
Yeah.
Just a couple other ones on this. If the water isn't moving continuously, such as an inlet, can you place the bags in the water near the inlet, or does it have to pass through it consistently? At that point,
Yeah.
would it be better just to use WC?
Yeah, so WC in terms of spreading out through the pond, you're innately going to have other sources of phosphorus coming into that pond and geese pooping and stuff leaking out of the sediment. So WC is, I think, good. But yeah, having these by an inlet, even if that's not consistent flow, that is just fine. Again, it can be intermittent flow. These bags can be sitting on dry ground and you get a rain and it channelizes and flows through it. It'll be just fine. Again, it can dry out, get rehydrated. It actually opens up more pore space and keeps bind in it. So you can have it by the inlet or in these, I'll say, ephemeral type, input areas, or if you turn on well water, routinely just filter it through that filter bag before it comes into the pond. So yeah, it doesn't have to be continuous. They keep working all the time. So, get them out there where you have water that may channelize and come in, or direct inputs, and put it through these filter bags. You're going to be in a lot better shape. So
last one, and then we'll continue. When the phosphorus gets bound with the products you're showing, does it then settle out of solution, or what happens to the byproduct? Which I think Troy kind of answered, but might be good to highlight.
Yeah. So the great thing with the filter bag material, very little product actually leaches out of these filter mesh material, and it's a very good mesh too. It doesn't break down. It doesn't give off plasticizer compounds or anything like that. So it's a very environmentally benign mesh, but the material stays inside of it for the most part. You may have a little bit of fines, or it's very benign as it is, but the filter material is designed to stay in there and not go into the pond. And that phosphorus just grabs onto it on that mineral material we have in there. It's looks like small rocks, if you will, inside that filter bag material that grabs that phosphate as it moves through. The other materials, yes, when they bind phosphorus, they ultimately end up in the sediments of these sites in this permanently bound mineral in the sediment. But again, very benign, not going to harm aquatic life, non-bioavailable. Think of it like a phosphate rock mineral where they ultimately end up. Very, very tiny, very minuscule phosphate rock, but very stable mineral in the sediments.
Troy, I might ask you a question on in regards to just mixing WC. The question that came up is, do you have to mix with water and then spray, or spray direct from the container? And then I think, Wes, you just answered the second question I asked. Any issue with fish in the ponds? Troy, you want to cover that?
As far as the WC, applying of WC, it can go straight into, whether, say you're running a your irrigation fill line, you can pour that along with that line as it's running, so it will disperse out under the water, the body of water. Or you can just put it in a backpack sprayer straight, no need to mix it, and just go around the perimeter of the pond, and it will disperse that way as well. Any way you can get it to move throughout the pond would be fine. Absolutely.
Great.
So no water needed.
Yeah, and the second part of your question there, Casey, yeah, these are very benign to aquatic life. We have comprehensive, ecotox documents on them, so they're not going to crash the pH. They're not going to cause a fish kill. They're, again, very, very benign, very ecologically friendly products. No irrigation restrictions either. So
I will add, with those filters, guys, if it's a high flow situation where it's really coming in pretty hard, there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat. You can stake them down. You can build a dam. You can run them zigzag. Any way you can think. You kind of got to use your imagination in a lot of situations to keep those things where they're intended to stay, where you put them. So, because a heavy flow, each sock's 25 pounds. So with a heavy flow, it'll move it.
Right. Great. Yeah. Great questions, guys. Please jump in with questions. This is meant to be a informational webinar for you guys and enhance your training. So please don't hesitate to jump in. The last Nutrizor product I really want to reinforce with you is this Utrisorb G. Now, this is a 10% lanthanum modified bentonite. It's what it's called, really high efficiency. So 150-pound bag of this binds 1 pound of phosphorus. Now, the benefits of this one, it is on this bentonite clay carrier, but that helps us disperse, first of all, through the water column, but also create this layer across the sediment. So very efficient product. If we put it out as a slurry, and you'll see some pictures here soon, we can scrub a lot of phosphate out of the water column, through this slurry and this connection through the water column, but creating this layer across the sediment is very beneficial. So here's some pictures of it going out. It can be as simple as put it in the boat prop wash. We can give you some cues on just a pump with water in it, bucket and chuck it, mix it up and get a bucket stirring and put it in there. So you can't put it out dry around sort of the perimeter of the pond too. So a lot of different ways to use this Utrisorb G product. But again, you get a nice slurry, if you will, out there through the water column, and then this nice coating in the sediment. So we create this layer across the sediments. That's where a lot of algae is overwintering. That's where a lot of mats are starting and forming down there, and they can suck a lot of phosphorus out of the sediment. So by inactivating that internal load, if you will, all this accumulated nasty stuff from years and years of buildup in the bottom of the pond, with this technology can really help put us in much better shape when it comes to being proactive on algae. So just some examples here, is pond, highly eutrophic, big, thick, mostly cladophora mats here, able to incorporate some Utrisorb G, and really made a big impact here. Going to the post-treatment pictures here, you see significant decrease. Going to the next slide, you see the significant decrease in algal mats. There is still some. I mean, we didn't completely sterilize the system, so I want to set expectations, but there's mainly just a few clumps here and there. We spot sprayed those with Captain XTR, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but much easier to maintain and keep clean and not getting this, this massive percent coverage of these mats by incorporating that Utrisorb G. And then we are able to get on that WC as a follow-up. So just to recap, so this is sort of the how to be proactive when it comes to pond management, how to get ahead of these nuisance algae in particular when it comes to managing ponds. Specifically, binding phosphorus puts you in a much better spot. So just want to recap some of these Utrisorb technologies here. The Utrisorb F filter bags intercept phosphorus and flowing water. The WC, this routine, keep raining it down out of the water column. Inevitably, some phosphorus is going to get in there, keep touching up, binding up that phosphorus out of the water column so the algae can't really use it to grow. And that G, it can get some from the water, but really coat and then activate from the sediments. And again, I didn't get into Utrisorb SI, but a neat technology we can incorporate as needed in different
Wes.
Question.
I would like to chime in real quick. Something that I would like to highlight for everybody to understand the safety of this product. This is not a pesticide. There is no EPA number. Correct. This does not claim to kill anything. This is strictly for water quality and taking the food source away from plants and algae. So extremely safe product that is focused primarily on the water quality.
Yep, that's a good point, Clint. Yeah, again, these are benign. Very easy to use, and you don't got to worry about, did I put 2 bags in? Is that too much, or 4 bags? Again, it's not going to hurt anything. Or some got on the turf. It's not gonna impact it or kill it. So yeah, very specific, just water quality enhancer product. So good. Yep, good point there, Clint. So all right. All right, one more section here on proactive, and these would be called colorants. Now, some people call them pond dyes, but want to talk through a couple of these real quick too. So, Aquashade, this main name brand. So this is registered, so we can claim it does prevent algae and weed growth, and it certainly can do that. We have some neat data here, but this is a specifically designed blend of dyes to intercept these wavelengths of light that algae need to grow. So very simple process here. Algae and weeds in water need sunlight for energy. That's their energy source. And if we intercept that, if we can block those key wavelengths, well, we can really slow them down or prevent them and get ahead of it. So that's what Aquashade's designed to do, registered to do, is just block the sunlight, block the energy. source that's really causing these guys to grow. So jump to the next slide here. So little messy. Basically, see all these wavelengths. This is, the visible spectrum of light we won't get into, but you see these different pigments, chlorophyll and phycocyan, and these are pigments algae have to access the light, to harvest the light as energy sources to grow. And then you see our dyes can overlap with a lot of those pigments. And there's very more concentrate than other dyes. We can measure this and also overlap with those pigments to, again, help block those to prevent algae growth is the key point there. All right, toward the next slide, and really what Aquashade is designed to do, and it helps when the water's deeper and we have more depth because it's more area we can block. But Aquashade is trying to really limit how much light is getting into that body of water that could grow algae. Limit that area where it could grow, so that that green section, a lot of the pond could grow algae. We block a lot of that light, especially at those deeper depths where we can only grow algae in, these small little pockets, small areas, make it much more easy for us to manage. So again, more of a proactive way, get that Aquashade in there, bump it, every 6 weeks or so, keep that concentration up. It's going to make the pond look beautiful, but also keep a lot of these nuisance growths down or at a minimum because it doesn't have the energy it needs to grow. So just, we got some data on this. Again, staying proactive, staying ahead of it, we can keep it from getting to those blooms, those nasty stages. We can keep this. This was, some ponds in Florida we published it with University of Florida, but again, able to keep those algal assemblages at bay and keep it from getting out of hand is what this data is showing. Again, we've done some neat studies, on different scales, both with weeds and algae. Actually, there's a whole mini series on Aquashade on algae corner. There's some cool time lapse videos in there. You should go check it out. But again, just blocking those wavelengths of light and just intercepting them before algae can use them. So that's what that's showing. And it's just hey, makes it look pretty too, huh? Can't complain about that. So some beautiful looking ponds, but also much better to manage, much better water quality. Now one more, I'll say next slide here. One more slide on Aquashade, and then there's one more coloring I want to tell you about. But again, Aquashade, what it is, it's a specific blend of 2 different dyes. Really designed to go after those wavelengths of light that algae are harvesting, that most algae are using to grow. Here's some different use rates of Aquashade. We do have an Aquashade Plus product too, just 2.4 times more concentrate. But again, very efficient, main name brand, great solid product to use out there proactively, and makes the pond look a lot better too. And one more slide here. We do have one. A lot of people, I'll say, like the darker color, the black color. So we do have Aqua Shadow. Great product by itself. Doing the neat thing. You can blend these if you're like, well, that one looks a little too blue. This one a little too black. Some people do a little blended taste, if you will, a nice midnight blue. So again, everyone's background pond color may be a little bit different. So yeah, we can always we can play around. We can give you some direction there on how much to add. But yeah, you can sort of blend these to taste too, based on how you want that pond to look. If you want a little more natural bluish, or more, this nice natural reflection, darker black color. Some people like that mirror-like, or, halfway in between. A lot of people like with midnight blue. We can do that with these different colorings. So it's pretty neat. But let's see, that's all I had. I believe on the black colorants, or the colorants. Yeah, Casey.
You got some great questions that have come in as well.
Awesome.
So how shallow of a pond would Aquashade not be effective? So is there...
So it's going to help it's going to help regardless, even in shallow ponds, but the impacts are going to be a little less noticeable if your depth is less than 3 feet, let's say, just because even though we're blocking some sunlight with the concentrations we can use out there, there's still going to be some sunlight getting through. So I'll say it can be used in any size pond, any depth of pond, but you may not have as obvious of impact if your pond's only 2 or 3 foot deep, because there's still that's a lot of sunlight to be trying to block in that distance. Now Aquashade could do it, but we definitely need to use toward the max label rates to really see that. So
When it comes to just affecting fish, does the lack of light affect the fish?
No, so there's been quite a few studies on this that are out there. It's used a lot in aquaculture ponds or fisheries ponds. It's been used. There's studies on using it with striped bass and largemouth bass. So it doesn't impact their ability to actually see and find prey at all. So and certainly no direct. It's very benign, if you will, in terms of its ecotoxicity as well. So doesn't mess with pH. I would say. The fish are happy, lots of times much happier. So aquashade, there's a little bit of data that shows maybe it can keep some depths cooler. It can keep the pH more stabilized. They found in these fish ponds too. So you're not getting that algae growth. You're not getting the algae growth that can cause these big swings and crashes. The algae itself can actually block the fish's ability to see more if you got a lot of particles in the water, big algae bloom. So in a lot of ways, it's actually very beneficial toward the fish and toward a healthy fishery by improving the water quality.
And real quick, just to piggyback, right now all we've covered is taking away phosphorus and sunlight. Everybody on this call is growing plants, whether you're growing turf grass or ornamentals. Think about how difficult it is to grow a plant when you take away sunlight and you take away a food source. So we haven't even gotten to algicides yet, and we're already improving the quality of the water and reducing the ability for plants and algae to thrive.
Absolutely. Yep. These were the two big sectors. We're jumping right into the algicides, if you will, right now, Clint. But yeah, those two big areas: the colorants, the nutrient mitigation, the Utrizor platform, very very important in terms of that more proactive management. How we can get those water bodies in better shape for the season and make them a lot easier to manage, or offset the need for more intense reactive management. So, jumping into actual registered algicides that are directly able to kill and control algae here. The first one is sort of this hybrid step into the full algicides I'll talk about. So SeaClear is a great algicide. It can control algae reactively, but also has this water quality component to it. It can take out a little bit of phosphorus, not as much as Utrizor, but it is a 2-in-1 product, being able to control the algae and remove some nutrients. It's the only registered both algicide and water quality enhancer in one. So keep that in mind. Great algicide, great to use routinely on a proactive basis, routinely out there. Yes, we're killing algae that's starting, but we're also continuing to improve that water quality with this SeaClear product. So it is a copper-based product, but no irrigation restrictions, and again, very benign when used according to these use rates and the label instructions. So just a little bit of SeaClear, much different than something like a copper sulfate out there. SeaClear is we do have a liquid and a granular version, but the liquid's real easy to use. With each application, we're improving the water quality. We're taking out a little bit of phosphorus and really keeping that algae from coming back, controlling it at the low levels and keeping it from bouncing right back. So it's been widely used. This is one of the first technologies I worked with. Well, coming to SEPRO, but also in graduate school, still called SP4041. But very very neat product. Able to get some great results out there. Been a go-to product for us in a lot of situations. So jump to the next slide, just some more data we've collected on it. Again, able to really help clean up a pond, clear it up real quickly. Works great on many different species of algae, especially ones you're already starting to see this spring, but of these planktonic cyanobacteria too that we talked about, those toxin producers, those nasty scum formers that pop up. This can really help offset those as well and clear those up. So looking at another slide here, this is just showing that we can take that phosphorus out, create a more balanced assemblage, more diverse balanced assemblage at low levels that aren't causing an issue, and again keep it away from those toxic cyanobacteria in particular. Whereas something like copper sulfate, things just come right back and regrow, and you just end up chasing your tail. So next slide here, just cool case study here. I won't get into the details of what they use, but just want to show you this is some SeaClear, some Utrizor WC, and some Aquashade. Just these three technologies that we've talked about. So to take a look at the pre-treatment here on the next slide, pond here. It's real nasty, really, eutrophic there on the top, or thick, nasty mats. But man, look at those beautiful images below. So C-Clear can help clean up that algae, Utrisorb WC, to keep it down, keep it from coming back, bind up those nutrients, and that, the aquashade gives it a nice blue kick. So some pretty cool examples here, but just wanted to show you this one with those technologies we just talked about, how it can transform that system from this eyesore to a feature. So pretty neat. So all right.
West, there's just been some, once again, great questions that have come in. I want to get a couple answers specific to C-Clear. So relating to C-Clear in a copper way, what is the residual? How long would the copper last in the water column? Let's say at the low 0.6 gallons per acre foot in a pond.
Yeah, so that's a real tricky question. It's really situational dependent. Is that C-Clear? It is a copper sulfate based product with a lot of other proprietary ingredients in it, but it's designed to stick and attack that algae pretty quickly. So if you have algae out there that you're directly spraying it on, it's not lasting a long time in the water column, nor do you want it to. That's by design. We want it to stick and target the algae and get inside and kill it. So, it will last longer if you're being more proactive. That's a great way to use the C-Clear, is where you don't necessarily see an algae issue. You want to start, if the water looks good, that's great, keep it looking good. So when you use it in that manner, there's still algae out there and it's still starting in low density that you may not notice yet, but that's a great time to use C-Clear because it can go farther and last longer out there. So again, it really depends on when you're using it, how you're using it, and how much algae you already got out there. But yeah, if you use it routinely, proactively, you can do some really have really good impact in it.
And how long does the C-Clear results normally last?
So the great thing about C-Clear is in a lot of typical ponds, we keep seeing better results throughout the season and then over seasons as well. So we've tracked this, that one paper we did over 3 years, and we're able to see even less applications needed and less algicide input year 2 and year 3 by staying on this C-Clear program. So we're constantly improving the water quality. We're exhausting these algal spores, and there's a lot of long-term benefit to it. So I don't know if that fully addressed the question. Again, there's always going to be algae growth and nutrient inputs, and that that could impact things. But we're seeing good and lasting results with C-Clear. We have we use this a lot in a lot of potable water reservoirs too. So we're offsetting cyanobacteria in large scale lakes and systems too. We use this technology quite a lot to protect drinking water too. So.
Thanks. One last one, and then we'll move on. Is someone kind of just wants to confirm, would they use C-Clear for maintenance and Captain for on fire situation?
Perfect. That's a great segue to getting into the next slide. So good question. So let me jump through this section and might clear it up for you. So first of all, we have a lot of different algicides, a lot of different, technologies, different active ingredients. I'm only covering a couple today just for simplicity. These are going to be the ones that are going to help clear up the vast majority of your issues. So just want to make that clear. We do have other things in our back pocket if we need to pull them out in unique situations. But the other technology I want to talk about more on the reactive side is Captain XTR. So this, again, more affectionately known as the hammer, go-to for tough algae. If you have some real tough mats out there, some nasty scums, mucilage colonies, you got a tournament coming up, or you need to get something under control, or it's late, it's July and there's something nasty in the pond, you don't know what it is, you need to have this product on hand. So C-Clear is much better on that more foundation routine, and it can get a lot of mats under control, don't get me wrong, but Captain XTR is going to be much more broad spectrum, different types of water, much more broad spectrum when it comes to nuisance and noxious types of algae. So this is a double chelated copper product, a really unique surfactant emulsifier package built right in. We call it SP9000, allowing us to get much more infusion through these mats and cells, getting that copper where it needs to be to get it under control. So again, a patented formulation. So there's nothing else like it out there. We test a lot of things, and we made sure this was significantly different, significantly better. And again, we have a bunch of publications and data on that. References as needed if you guys need that. But this has been our number one algicide for a reason, and our number one for these tough nasty sites for a reason. So this is sort of what it looks like, this infusion concept. A lot of these algae guys are, I mean, they have mucilage, there's mucus on them, there's all sorts of stuff built up. Nature's messy, but we got to penetrate through all that to really get control. So this surfactant emulsifier package, again, we have built in, works well with that chelated copper and allows it to really penetrate, get inside, and kill these things from the inside out. That's where you get the most efficiency of a product like copper, is really getting to that viable growth. So very good performance and much more effective, over 50% more effective than other even chelated coppers you may be aware of out there. So jump into the next slide. I put this in there. I mean, many of you may have, canals or waterfalls, rivers, decorative thing. Hey, there's one at Quail Hollow right behind me. But where algae grows, so flowing water. This is certainly labeled for flowing water, but this is an irrigation canal out west. But I just want to reinforce, we have this ability, just precision pulse, go up and pour it in flowing water, and we're able to get control 8 miles downstream just by doing that. So even with this short contact time, I'm trying to reinforce, we can stick to, get inside, kill, and control these nuisance types of algae, even in moving water scenarios like this. So again, this is our go-to in many different areas, but certainly even these irrigation canals, reinforcing there's no irrigation restrictions on this product either. So very, very neat product, very cool design to be able to do that in all types of water, even moving water. So another example here, again, this with pond in Illinois, and man, 2 days post-treatment, we're able to knock it down. So very quick, very efficient, thorough control, even on some tough, nasty mat forming situations like this, where you need to get under control quickly. Another, couple more examples here. Again, just got an XDR, cleaned it up, nasty looking pond. I think this was about a week later, but again, able to get this under control quickly. When you when you got something nasty, you don't want to mess around. You should be reaching for the hammer. I think there's another example. Another example here. Again, we got a bunch of examples. This is a neat approach too. So if you get, hey, it got out of hand, something nasty popped up, we need to get it cleaned up, you can use what we call the hammer, the Captain XTR there. And then once we get it cleaned up, it may take 1 or 2 applications to get it all cleaned up. You can get back on that C-Clear program to stay more proactively. So we call that the hammer and broom approach. Clean it up with the hammer and keep it clean with the broom. But a couple quick examples of this too, just to reinforce this approach here. If you jump to the next slide, you can see, example here. This pond was a mess, all sorts of issues. They did have some duckweed and some weeds mixed in, so we did a mix of XTR and diquat. So keep in mind, don't mix the concentrates. Have plenty of water in there first. You don't want to mix the concentrates of Captain XTR and diquat. And do note that diquat has some irrigation restrictions. Potentially read the label. Captain XTR does not, but when you mix them, you got to go with the diquat irrigation restrictions. But since we had some duckweeds and some other weeds in there, that mix we used and cleaned it up, got it under control, and then we're able to just get back on that C-Clear routine foundational program to keep this pond clean here. Good hammer and broom success story. I got one more example, I believe, of that too. Again, nasty looking pond here. That XTR, I like, I know Troy likes different, quart per gallon. I like about a 10% solution, but yeah, just go out there, spray these mats, get it under control. If you're just doing a band or targeted treatment, clean it up and get back on that C-Clear just to keep that water quality looking good, keep that algae from coming back. I think, next slide here, Casey. One more example where we incorporated, all these technologies, the XTR, the Utrisorb G to bind it up, and then that C-Clear routine. Just one more good seeing is believing for you guys here on the next slide. To show you how we can use these technologies together. That, again, nasty looking pond, all sorts of weird stuff growing in that mat, able to get it under control with the Captain XTR, but realize there's a lot of nutrients built up in this algae. They suck it up, as you know. So we follow that up with that Utrisorb G to intercept it, to break that cycle, to bind the nutrients so it didn't regrow. And then we kept on that C-Clear proactively to keep it clean. So just another sort of way you can integrate some of these technologies. We talked about some real world case studies where, we've cleaned up a lot of sites. So with that, we certainly have more time for discussion and questions, but wanted to do a quick summary of things that we covered today. Really try to simplify this to a few different categories and a few different solutions that are going to be most applicable for the vast majority of your water resources out there. Being proactive, that Utrisorb platform specifically binding phosphorus, that key food source that correlates to algae growth and algal biomass in most water resources. The Utrisorb WC, the Utrisorb G, the Utrisorb F filters, that Utrisorb platform to bind phosphorus. And the other more proactive technique, which makes the pond look beautiful too, is to block that light source, the aqua shade and aqua shadow and combinations thereof we talked about. So again, those top two lines, more proactive solutions, nutrients and light, get those ponds in better shape, get them looking real beautiful, and make them a lot easier to manage later in the season. And then the C-Clear and Captain XTR are more your established known algicides that can kill algae very well, and C-Clear to help improve the water quality too. So think of that C-Clear as your routine basis. Just stay on that routinely, keep that pond looking good. Catch it early. If the pond's looking good, that's great. Keep it looking good. This is where people are like, I don't need to treat this week. It's not looking bad. And then the next week it exploded. So stay on it. Keep it with that routine. Foundational C-Clear program is going to help you a lot. And if something nasty pops up, or you got something you're not sure what to do with out there, bring on the hammer and get that cleaned up with Captain XTR. So,
Wes, before we, and I'll open up to Clinton and Troy as well. We've gotten a lot of questions in, which is great. And we also had some questions prior to that I wanted to get answered as well. So just kind of keeping on the topic of Captain XTR, is Captain XTR, for Captain XTR, do you have to, can it just be applied to water, or does it take contact?
It's ideal. So if you're trying to get these built up clumps and mats, it's ideal to try to get good coverage of those. Now, it is water soluble. It can move through the water and have a residence time in the water. So if you're using this in more of a routine basis and just want to, get it through the water or have a planktonic bloom, you can just, put it in there, a band treatment, or, it'll spread out. So there's different ways to apply it. But if you're truly trying to go after, large mats and scums accumulation, it is better to try to get decent coverage on that. Try to, mix it up in a spray and get coverage on those mats. I'm
going to add to that.
Answer your question. Yeah, go ahead, Troy.
By saying, when you do get those mats, those tough to control mats, provide enough pressure to penetrate that mat with your spray. And going back to another question, it's a pint per gallon of water. So 16 ounces per gallon of water, Captain XTR mixed up, and then penetrate that mat the best you can with whether it's enough pressure from the sprayer, whether it's you spray it out on top of it and then pound it down with a irrigation hose or whatever the case may be, or disturb it before or after application always helps as well. That's some of the keys with XTR, because I've had a lot of guys that will just go out with a backpack and mist it over the top of it and think it's going to hammer it, and it really doesn't. It'll turn it brown on top. It'll kill it on top, but it's still sitting there. And That's because it's just been misted out over the top. So try and penetrate that mat the best you can, or disturb it before or after application.
Yep. I'll say, yeah, anything you can do to get, more contact points, get around it is good, especially with large masses like that. One more point I'll make on that too, Casey, is this is labeled for fumigation. So there's all sorts of weird stuff that often grows through pipelines, pump systems, wet wells, sprinkler heads, all sorts of, algae, cyanobacteria, sometimes bryozoans, and other things clogging up irrigation. So this is a great technology to be able to use through, irrigation and fumigation systems too, to help keep it clean. So
awesome.
So, yeah.
Let me see. When the pond is so matted, should you do like a half and half? Like, if just wondering if algae dying off consumed a lot of the available oxygen. So should you do like a half and half application?
Yeah. So again, please read the labels. The ones with specific EPA registration algicide labels, like Captain XTR and C Clear. Please read the labels on those copper algicide labels. It does say treat a third to a half of the water body. Or less for dissolved oxygen reasons. So if you have fish out there and you're concerned on killing too much at once and crashing dissolved oxygen, yes, that's a real risk. So just follow those label instructions. But you definitely in that situation, you probably want to chop it down. Maybe even start with a quarter of the mat if it's shallow and late summer, warm temperatures. There's not a lot of dissolved oxygen in there as it is. Treating a portion at a time, definitely, always read and follow label instructions, certainly. But with the copper-based products, definitely treating a portion of a completely covered or thick scenario at a time is important for dissolved oxygen dynamics and fish health. So that's a good point.
I know we've talked a lot about courses today, golf courses, but we have a good amount of ornamental customers on as well. And we've had some good questions come in there. What can I use to control weeds and algae in my half-acre pond without harming water I use to irrigate my greenhouse plants? I think some of this has been answered, but maybe Troy, you want to cover some of that?
That's more of a Clint question.
Clint, you want to cover that for us?
Yeah, everything here is irrigation safe, no matter if it's pansies, petunias, bentgrass greens, azaleas, your neighbor's tree. It doesn't matter. Everything here that we've covered, irrigation safe, safe for aquatic wildlife, safe for your Labrador retriever and your kids.
Best and most economical way to treat Phytophthora in multiple large ponds and a nursery. Wes, do you want to cover that for us?
Yeah, I'll jump in there, Casey. So there's been a lot of neat research we've been part of and been aware with. Dr. Jeffers at Clemson did a lot of this fundamental studies on a lot of our different algicide products, and multiple of our copper algicides can control Phytophthora spores in water, especially nurseries. But really, Captain XTR seem to perform the best and have more of that stability contact time in the water itself. So very low concentrations. We're talking around 0.1 milligrams copper per liter, around 0.6 gallons per acre foot of the Captain XTR. Now, as the water turns over and you get new water in, we have to, bump it back up. But there's some great data out there, great studies and presentations, publications that Dr. Jeffers and his group did on controlling Phytophthora spores in nursery settings with our products. But Captain XTR works great on that.
Another question that came in was, I have a shared water source, a pond that crosses property lines upstream. Do I need to be concerned when using the hammer?
The hammer. I mean, it's probably, if it's shared water and shared ownership, it's probably, a good idea to contact the other owner, make sure he's okay with that. But, on your portion, if you just, manage your portion, that Captain XTR likes to, stick and bind to those nuisance noxious types of algae. So don't expect much drift, if you will, to the other side. It's not going to harm anything. Again, there's no water use restrictions. It's not going to, impact anything, irrigation or dogs or cattle or swimming. No issues with any sort of activities. So I wouldn't expect there to be an issue, but it might just be, courtesy to, talk to the other guy, make sure he's okay with it. So.
Thanks, West. Troy, how long should I wait between captain and following up with C-clear treatment on the same pond?
I usually tell guys about 14 days, 10 to 14 days. And then I would continue once you've got it knocked down with the XTR and you want to keep it clean. Then you can just do some band treatments around the perimeter of the pond with the C-clear and continue to do those every 2 to 3 weeks. And, probably on the shoulder seasons when it's cooler and not running as rampant, you could probably stretch it out to 4 weeks. But, and like Wes said earlier, it has some phosphorus binding material in it as well. So more applications, your ponds, the more C-clear applications you're making, the better off your water quality's getting a lot better as well. So hope that answered the question.
No, I think that was great, Troy. And I think you might have highlighted this as well, Troy, but in regards to, can you highlight some of the C-clear and captain rates per gallon? What is it like? How much captain XTR per gallon? 1 quart per gallon? And then also C-clear rates as well. There's another question.
When you're mixing the XTR, 16 ounces or a pint. Some of you beer drinkers are familiar with pints. That's 16 ounces, and that will go in a gallon of water. The C-clear, you can do it straight or neat, if you will, or you can mix it up a 75-25, a 50-50 to make it stretch and go a little farther. The main thing with the C-clear is just getting it in the water, whereas the XTR, you're pounding down that nasty algae mat. And here's something that I recommend to a lot of guys when going back to Utrisorb WC. Once you've pounded down that mat with the XTR, it's going to start to die off, right? So it's going to release phosphorus just like a leaf would or a grass clipping or anything else. So I always like to recommend 3, 4, 5 days later, after you've made that XTR and things are going away, to make a WC app, the Utrisorb WC app. Not only are you going to clean up the water column, you're also going to grab that decaying plant material, which is releasing the phosphorus into the water as well. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone with that application. And it prevents you from having a rebloom, if that makes sense.
Well, Clint,
I'll jump in there, Casey. One thing is on that C-clear rate, in general, on that proactive basis, I like the 2.5 to 5 gallons per surface acre. So you can put it out like Troy said, but around 2.5 to 5 gallon per surface acre of your site. Put it out proactively in a band, like Troy said, and keep that keep that water looking good. So.
Well, Clint, Troy, and Wes, this hour has flown by, and we appreciate. There continues to be some more questions, and we'll reach out to anyone that hasn't got their questions answered. But on the previous slide, just want to highlight those are our technical specialists on both the turf and ornamental side. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to any of them. They are experts, and they can answer about any question that you might throw at them in regards to turf and ornamental and aquatics. And if they can't, they will ask and get back to you. So feel free to reach out to the SEPRO land team, and we'll get those questions answered. Lastly, just thanks for joining us. I know you got a lot on your plate, so thanks for taking an hour to hear from us. And once again, thanks West and Troy and Clint for all of the content and details. Would ask you that there's a file, a Simplify Your Pond program. You can scan the QR code and get directly to that, or go to sepro.com/turf brochures and download that as a great resource as well. This covers a lot of the things that Wes and Troy and Clint covered here on the call today. So thanks again for your time. Have a great rest of the week and a great spring and summer, and reach out to the SEPRO land team at any time.